Get a little bit of that sauce on there. Oh man, I can see why this recipe went viral. So this Marry Me Chicken went viral a couple years ago, and I never did a video for it because I wasn't making videos back then. But I want to do my version of it because it is good. Now, if you're new here, this is not a channel about how to find love through food. Although I think you got a lot better shot at it with this Marry Me Chicken than you would with a salad. I mean, no great romance throughout history started with a salad. I'm pretty sure Anthony and Cleopatra had a nice big bone-in ribeye before they started their thing. So will this recipe get somebody to marry you? I mean, I think that's a pretty strong response to poultry, but stranger things have happened. Let's get to cooking. I'm gonna get all the ingredients together for this Marry Me Chicken. I'll show you how to make it. And maybe, just maybe, if that's what you're looking for, you can make it happen with this recipe. Stick around. So I got about 2 pounds of chicken breast here, and all I'm gonna do is cut these in half. You want them to be cutlets, but you don't want them to be super, super thin. So we'll just cut these in half. So about that thickness, it's about right. Just cut that one off at the bottom. And you could ask the butcher to do this for you also if you wanted to, so you can save that step once you get to the house. So that's pretty good. We're just gonna cut this into little pieces like this. Just little cutlets, and you can trim off all the fat that you don't want. Just trim it up as good as you can. Just got all this little stuff like that off of there. It's probably easier if you do it before you cut these up, but hey, I didn't. You should get all the stuff like this. It's just not gonna taste that good in the final product. And you know, if you're trying to get somebody to marry you over poultry, you definitely want it to be as good as possible. So just put all these little pieces over here. Just gonna toss that. That looks no good. Yeah, just get in here, trim all that up, and then cut them all until you got those pieces like that. And after I've cut them into strips like this, I'm just gonna kind of do them maybe 3-inch long pieces, just a little bigger than a bite size. Just makes it nice. That's just my little touch on it. You don't have to do that. A lot of people make this in big long strips. Seems to work just fine. But that one little step could make all the difference in what you're trying to do here. So after you've sprayed everything down with pure alcohol, washed your hands 38 times, and got everything cleaned up on the counter, because you know the chicken police are about.
Yeah, we got a 1067 chicken-related crime.
I'm just gonna take my yellow mixing bowl, because I don't know when else I'm gonna be able to use it in this video. I'm gonna crack an egg in it, and I'm gonna crack another egg in it. Now I'm just gonna beat that up just a little. And I'm gonna throw my eggshells on the floor. And some people like to use, you know, a whisk or whatever. I just use a fork. You know, we didn't have whisks when we were growing up, so, you know, we learned to fork it. So there we go. And now I'm gonna dip these into here as soon as I season them. The first thing I'm gonna season them with is just a little bit of salt and pepper. And then what I'm gonna do a little bit later is I'm gonna season some of my keto flour for the coating. Now you may say, some of that seasoning might get lost inside this egg. Hey, some of it may, some of it may not. Either way, I'm just gonna take this chicken and put it right in here, and we're gonna let it hang out for just a little bit while we get the next step ready. And now, I gotta sanitize the doggone counter again. Hey, bring me the gallon of alcohol. Anyway, just give this a good mix like that. Make sure that egg's all over it, and just let it sit and hang out and marinate in this eggy goodness while I put on my hazmat suit and spray down this whole kitchen again. Chickens and egg sanitation is no joke. Boy, I was just in time right there. Chicken police were coming for their daily inspection. So I'm just gonna turn my pan on a medium heat, and I just chopped a little bacon up like this. I'm gonna throw it in here, let that render down, because we're gonna cook this chicken in some bacon grease. So just get it all kind of spread out. Let it sit there and render out the bacon grease. And if you don't have a good enough bacon grease, hopefully you got one of these bad boys that holds the bacon grease. And you can just take a little of that and throw it in there too if you don't have quite enough. So we'll just let this cook down and I'll be right back as soon as this is done. Now while that's cooking down, I'm gonna go ahead and start preparing the breading for this chicken. So I'm just gonna take a glass bowl like that. I'm gonna take some of my keto flour, and I'll link the video to that in the description and up above for you. Just take a little bit of that, and I'm gonna kick this up a little bit with some of this Colonel Sanders blend of 11 herbs and spices. And if you haven't seen that video, I'll leave a link to that up above and in the description also. Because if you're trying to marry somebody, nothing says love like the Colonel's blend of 11 herbs and spices. I'm just saying. Now I'm just gonna kind of mix that up, get that all together like that. See how that looks? Be ready to start breading up this chicken in just a minute. I'm just gonna get one of my baking pans that's lined with parchment paper and put one of these cooling racks on it just to set it on once I bread it. And just so I can multitask proper, I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna pour this chicken into it. I'm gonna give it a good stir one more time. Make sure it eggs all around it, and then I'm gonna let it drain for a minute before I put it in the flour, because I want enough eggs stuck to it, but not too much where that breading is gonna fall off. So I'm gonna throw it in here in the sink, just because that's what the chicken police said was an approved technique. So we'll throw it in there, let that hang out for just a little bit. Now I can tell you right now, I'm gonna need some more bacon grease in this, but I'll let this go ahead and cook down as much as possible. And I'm gonna throw some more bacon grease in there for sure. And normally I'll take this little bad boy here and just set it on the stove if I'm cooking on the stove and let this get nice and warm. But I didn't have that kind of prep time today, so I'm just gonna take about a good tablespoon of that, throw it right in the mix, close that up. It's got this little strainer on the top, so when you do your microwave bacon or whatever, it'll catch all the little bits up in the top. Or you can just eat them like candy if you want to. Hey, you ain't gonna hurt my feelings. Oh yeah, you hear that? That's getting good. We're gonna cook the chicken inside here, so we want a good bit of bacon grease in there. Now just go ahead and take these pieces of chicken one at a time now that they've drained. So I just put this strainer right in the yellow bowl. I'll dump out this excess egg right here and just use one hand to bread them with and one hand dry. So you just dip them in like that, throw them right on the rack. And you can do a few at a time if you want to. Y'all see that okay? There we go. Now you can also throw these in a gallon Ziploc bag if you want to. A lot of times I do that. I just wanted to show you this Colonel's blend. So I figured it'd show up better like this. Just give it a little dredge. You don't want too much on there, but just enough to give it a nice crisp and some good flavor. So as soon as I get done with this, I'll be back and we'll move on to the next step. So looking back on this, what I should have done is just use my microwave bacon grill that I like to use and just crisp this up in there and pour the bacon grease off into here to cook the chicken in. But hey, hindsight's 20/20. And plus, you know, if you're trying to marry somebody with your chicken, I mean, you might want to go through this whole presentation and everything. But if not, you just might want to crisp up that bacon in that microwave bacon grill, dump the grease in here, and go from there. But hey, that's up to you. Looking for love in all the wrong places. Looking for love in too many faces. Anyway, I'm gonna take all this bacon out, put it off here to the side. We're gonna get ready to fry up this chicken. So to help this bacon grease from splattering when you put this chicken in, you either need to add in some olive oil, which I'm gonna use, enough to coat the bottom of this. Now this is a 12-inch hex-clad pan, but just put enough in there, and the combination of those two will keep it from splattering so much. You could use butter in here also if you wanted to, but I've just got these bacon bits. I'm gonna put those off to the side. We're gonna use those a little bit later. And people always tell me not to be so dangerous, but I've got a little trick that I use to where I'll drop a little drop of water in here to see if this oil is hot enough or not. And I know a lot of people said just drop a piece of breading in, but I like to live dangerously, so here we go. And once it starts to bubble up just a little bit, it's ready. and we'll put this chicken in. We'll cook it up for 3-4 minutes aside till it gets browned on one side, and then we'll flip it over. Let's lay this in, see how this sounds. Oh yeah, we're getting good now. We'll just put all these in, let them cook up. I'll be right back when they're done. So after about 3 minutes or so, I'll check one, make sure it's getting nice and brown. Oh yeah. And we'll just flip the rest of them over, and I'm gonna take them off onto a paper towel lined plate and set them aside for later on. And just set them on here and leave them alone. Don't be messing with them or anything like that. Let them do their thing. I promise you it's gonna come out just fine. And listen, here's the deal. You don't even have to use the breading on these if you don't want to. You might be looking more for a short-term dating thing or, you know, something like that. So you may not want to go all out. You don't want to hook them right away, I guess. But hey, that's up to you. I like the breading on here. I think that's gonna make it the best. And we'll fry the rest of these up. We'll be right back. Start putting this thing together. Looking for love in all the wrong places. So after these are cooked through like this, I'll put the rest of them on this paper towel lined plate and just let them chill for a little bit. They're gonna go back in, don't worry. They're not gonna get cold on you. We're gonna heat them back up. Now we got a good amount in here of grease and olive oil. So I'm gonna go ahead and go in with these onions. We'll start cooking those down. Now you can pour out a little bit of this grease if you want to, but I like it. Tastes good to me. Brings a lot of flavor to this dish. I'll just set this off to the side, and I'll be right back. So we'll just cook these for 3-4 minutes till they get nice and translucent, super sweet and soft, and then we'll go in with some garlic. So these onions are looking great. So just try to scrape all those little bits off the bottom too. That's gonna get incorporated in just a little bit. And I'll go ahead and throw in a little bit of garlic. And just kind of push this to the side, throw that garlic right in the middle. Now I use the equivalent of about 3-4 cloves of garlic in there. So you can use this either to marry somebody or to run them completely off, depending on how much garlic you use. So this is like a multifunctional dish. You can customize this however you like. If you decide you get tired of them after a little bit, you've been cooking in there, add a little more garlic, you'll run them right off. So we'll just stir this together for about a minute. And then if you've ever seen my marinara sauce video, you'll know the next step, we're gonna fry up some paste. Are you looking to find love through poultry? If so, make sure you hit subscribe down there and click the bell next to it, and you won't miss any more of my love and food advice. So what I'm gonna do now, once this is cooked down real nice and you don't wanna burn that garlic, just take this paste, and I got the little tube of it. We'll go in with about a good tablespoon or a little better and fry this all up together. This is gonna give it that good umami flavor. We're leaving out the sun-dried tomatoes, which is traditional in this, because I'm gonna use roasted red pepper instead to cut the carb count down. We want that umami flavor from this paste. So I'm just gonna stir this through there. We'll fry this up just a little bit. Now what I'm gonna do, I'll show you. You're gonna want some chicken bone broth. And what I do is I'll take a cup of water and some of this bone broth concentrate and just squirt it right in there and you've got bone broth. I haven't been able to find this stuff the last couple of times I've gone to Walmart. So I'll put a link down there in the description to a powder you can get that works just the same. So after this paste is nice and fried up, oh man, you can smell it. I wish you could smell it right now. Just gonna pour this in there. A beautiful chicken bone broth. So that was 1 cup of that. And then just to clean out the rest of that bone broth, I'm gonna add in a cup of heavy cream. So we'll go right in there with 1 cup of heavy cream. We'll start bringing this up to temperature. I'm gonna go ahead and add the cream cheese in, and that's about 3 ounces of cream cheese and a 1/2 cup of parmesan cheese, and let that start melting down. So after that melts down like that, you just wanna let it simmer for maybe 4 or 5 minutes. It's gonna thicken up a little bit more, and then we'll go in with the next ingredients. Man, this is looking real good now. So I'm just gonna go in with my spices. I got a 1/4 teaspoon of xanthan gum. I got a teaspoon of dried oregano, a teaspoon of smoked paprika. I may have thrown a little bit more than that in there, but it's all good. Half a teaspoon of dried thyme and a teaspoon of crushed red pepper. So I'm gonna throw that all right in the mix. Then I'm gonna add in about a teaspoon to 2 teaspoons of Dijon mustard and some lemon zest. Now I'm gonna zest this entire lemon into here, but I won't bore you with that. I'll zest it in, give it a good stir, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. And oh yeah, when you're buying lemons and you're gonna zest them, make sure you get the organic lemons. They spray the regular lemons with a bunch of junk that you don't want. So make sure you get organic when you buy lemons if you're gonna use that zest. And now it's time to get a little spatula because this is thickening up. And I wanna make sure and get all this scraped off the sides like that and get it all well combined before we go on to the next step. And we're almost to the stage where somebody's gonna wanna marry you. And I got a solid handful of this basil from the garden, including some of this pretty purple stuff. I don't know if you grow your own basil or not. If you do, just walk outside and grab some. I'm just gonna tear it up and throw it in here and let that make this nice and tasty too. Hey, and if they don't like basil, you probably don't wanna marry them anyway, so this will be your litmus test. If they're watching you do this part and they say, oh, I don't like basil, just go ahead and throw them out right now. And that's my free marriage advice to you. It's probably worth what you paid for it. Just stir this all through. I don't know why I switched back to my wooden spoon because I really need a spatula to kind of get it all combined, but hey, what you gonna do? So just let this kind of get real happy in there for about 5 minutes or so. Oh, well, I forgot my roasted red peppers. I'm gonna go ahead and throw that in too. I'm using that in place of the sun-dried tomatoes just to cut the carbs. But we got that tomato taste in there from that paste, so we're gonna be just fine. Switch back to the spatula, mix this up. I'm gonna let it sit and thicken just for a minute or two. I'm gonna pop that chicken back in here. And I forgot to tell you this, but you need to preheat your oven to 350 degrees because we're gonna pop this back in there. I'm gonna go ahead and add this chicken in. Hopefully I can fit it all. If not, I'll fit most of it and we'll figure the rest of it out. So I just throw my little chicken in here like this. Make sure it gets all happy in there. We've already scraped all the bits off the bottom and everything. So this should be really nice. Just push these down in there, make sure they get covered up with this beautiful sauce. Oh yeah, it's gonna work out just fine. It's a good thing about having this big hex clad. This thing is a foot across, so there's not much it won't fit. So I'm gonna get all these in here. Just push them down with a spatula, make sure that sauce gets all over the top of them. Oh man, this is looking good already. And hey, I'm telling you, even if you don't get anybody to marry you, you might at least get a second date. Or if you had enough garlic in there, you can run them off completely if you figured out that ain't really what you want. So this is what we've got right here. I'm gonna go into the oven with it. It's gonna stay in there for 5 minutes. And this is gonna be absolutely delicious. I can't wait to show you what this looks like when it's finished. Now I'm gonna show you how I like to plate this in just a minute. But first, I'm gonna sneak a little taste and see if it's as good as they think. Oh man, I'm gonna tell you right now, this sauce is nice and thick and creamy. I'm just gonna find a small piece so nobody's the wiser. Get a little bit of that sauce on there. Oh man. And I'm gonna tell you right now, if you're trying to run somebody off, don't make this. Marry me? Maybe. But you make this, you're gonna get something. I can see why this recipe went viral. And this is my own little version of it, so I feel like that KFC seasoning on there is next level. So the way I wanna plate this up is real simple. I'm just gonna put a little pile of cauliflower rice on the plate. And I just seasoned it real simply with some salt and pepper, a couple other spices. You can throw some all-purpose seasoning on there or whatever kind of seasoning you like. That's good seasoned salt is good on there to get some flavor out of it. And then we'll just place a few of these little hunks of chickeny goodness, that Marry Me Chicken, right on top. And then of course, you gotta have some of that delicious creamy sauce to finish it up with. Oh man, I'm telling you, no matter what your end goal is, you're absolutely gonna love this. And then I'll just finish it up with a little bit of lemon on there. You can squeeze that right over the top to really bring out the flavor in it. Goes absolutely phenomenal with it. And a little bit more of that fresh basil from the garden. Now I will warn you, if you make this and you end up married, don't go blaming me for it. This is my disclaimer, so take heed or face the consequences. But this right here is a dish that I will definitely make again. If you need a dessert to go with this Marry Me Chicken, make sure you watch this video next or try this one. Either one is gonna seal the deal.